Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. We are all voting in a whole new way this primary election and likely this fall as well. To talk more about that, I'm pleased to have join us today Professor Josh Douglas of the UK College of Law and also an author. His book is called Vote for Us, and I want to get it right, How to Take Back Our Elections and Change the Future of Voting. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so everyone, not everyone, but the majority of people are going to be voting absentee for this primary election. What do you make of that? Is that something that is feasible in the future?
Well, I think it's a good move, certainly in a pandemic, and I hope that we'll vote the same way in November. What we know about vote by mail is that people like it. It's convenient, it's secure, it helps to boost turnout, which I think can only be a good thing in a democracy, regardless of who wins. And we're already seeing that turnout is up this primary season as compared to previous years. And I think it's only a positive in terms of making democratic participation easier, more inclusive, and more convenient for everybody.
Why do you feel like it's such a partisan issue, voting in person versus voting absentee?
Well, it didn't used to be, or at least the politics were a little bit reversed. I mean, historically, Republicans were ones that tended to use absentee balloting more. For example, military voters certainly have more historical use of absentee voting. And again, historically, you'd see some political alliances that way. It's become partisan now, unfortunately, because some of our elected leaders are spreading falsehoods, blatant lies about the security of vote by mail without any evidence whatsoever. And when we know from the states that have done this for years that voting by mail is secure, it's convenient, people are watching the integrity of the system. But when you have our political leaders telling voters lies about the security of the system and people believe that, then it starts to undermine people's faith in how we vote.
What are a couple of other ways that we as a nation can do better to make voting easier and better and more accessible for everybody?
Well, the voting policies are done state by state, and some states do it very, very well. And these are so-called red and so-called blue states. So some states, instead of having a two-step process like we have in Kentucky for this primary, where you have to affirmatively request your ballot and then wait for it to come and then send it back, automatically mail every registered voter a ballot without them asking for it. This happens in places like Washington State and Oregon and Utah. It's very convenient. It boosts turnout because you don't have to take that additional step. So these are really what I call true universal vote by mail states. Now, no one advocates to do away with all in-person voting. You need some in-person voting for voters with disabilities, voters who need language assistance. So having a combination like Colorado that has vote centers on the voting day where a voter can go to any polling place in their county, and there's multiple polling places per county, and combining that with a system where everyone automatically receives a ballot, that's really the best possible way to run the election process itself. We could talk about voter registration, redistricting reform, a whole suite of things that will help voters also feel that they can be more invested in the process.
Quickly, how far behind do you think Kentucky is?
Well, in a national nonprofit survey called the Election Performance Index that looks at various factors as to how well states run their elections, Kentucky is roughly 42 or 43 out of 51 if you include DC. So we're pretty poor. This election in June will help because we're making it a lot more convenient to vote, and that's going to boost voter turnout. Of course, if we see massively long lines on June 23rd, that's going to hurt. But comparatively, we don't do very well. We have restrictive registration laws. We have to be registered 29 days before Election Day. We have typically, you need an excuse to vote absentee. We have 1 day of voting with only 12 hours. And all of those things make us look a lot worse as compared to a lot of other states.
Josh Douglas, author of Vote for Us and professor at the UK College of Law. Thank you so much for your insight today.
Thank you.
All right, much more Hey Kentucky right after this.